Hey everybody, so today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite characters from Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn, and probably a lot of people's favorite side character, and that is Tensoon. But before I get into kind of talking about Tensoon, this will be like a spoiler-filled kind of deep dive. So if you haven't read Mistborn Era One, go read Mistborn Era One because it is a phenomenal series. But without further ado, so our first kind of introduction into Tensoon is when Elend, in the very first Mistborn book, Final Empire, Elend is coming back from a ball, and we see Straff talking to one of his servants, and then we later find out that this servant is a Kandra, and that Kandra is Tensoon. And so this is his only appearance in the first book, but it does kind of let us know that the Ventures have a Kandra. And then our next kind of introduction to Tensoon is actually where we don't know that it is Tensoon, but Vin sends Orsur to go take the body of a wolfhound. Zane and Tensoon kind of ambush this Orsur, and Tensoon kills Orsur and basically takes his place for the majority of the rest of the book. And this is because Tensoon didn't want to kill Orsur. Obviously, this is just because the Kandra are just such a duty driven people by their commitment to the contract that they will do whatever their master commands, or whoever holds the contract. And so Tensoon did this, and he basically takes the role of Orsur for a large portion of the book, and we see some of the best dialogue and interactions in this disguised position where Vin thinks that it's Orsur, and then Tensoon is obviously just very not wanting to get emotionally attached to Vin. It's just Tensoon doesn't like people. Like most Conjures just don't like people, and especially not Allomancers. But we slowly, as they start to warm up to each other, we see Tensoon start to open up, and he starts to tell Vin about some elements of the contract, and eventually actually kind of implies that you know the power that Allomancers had over Kandra, and like where their value comes from, and like where some of the dangers. And Vin actually uses this, like Tensoon tells Vin about this, and then Vin actually uses it and hurts Tensoon. And this is a really sad scene because like he yelps, and Vin's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry," and he's like, "Please don't do that again." And it's just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and he's just like, "I really shouldn't have told you that." And it's just such a sad, and it's just you see them starting to bond, and then Vin like gets a little carried away, and she hurts Tensoon. It's just a really really sad little moment. But then later, so flash forward, Vin Zane asks Vin to run away with him, and she refuses. And this is when Zane reveals that he's pretty freaking crazy, and he has tells Tensoon to come to him. This is probably one of my favorite reveals in the whole series. I super didn't see this coming. I know that some people see it coming. I did not. That Tensoon was Orsur, I like just did not see that coming. So Zane proceeds to start to beat the snot out of Vin because he does have Atium. But Tensoon gives Vin this little like wink and a nod, like, "Oh, you maybe do what I told you," and Vin does, and Vin uses Tensoon to kind of stop Zane and ultimately kill Zane. And this is a really powerful scene, I actually think, because Tensoon does this thinking that he will be executed, and he returns to basically the Kandra homeland, with the expectation that he will be executed for telling Vin about the contract, and this is really sad. But like I said, it just shows just how committed the Kandra are to the contract. And so let me actually go over the contract. I have the kind of bullet points of it pulled up right here. So the first bullet point is ultimate dedication to the Lord Ruler. This makes sense given the context of what we know about the Kandra. The next is ultimate duty of the Kandra in safeguarding Atium. This makes sense, especially with what we know about Ruin's connection to Atium. Next is reverence for earlier generations. We see the first and second generation, mostly the second generation, taking very much advantage of this element of the contract. Next, we see legal rights of all Kandra, including the right to plead one's case to the first generation before execution. We see this happen with Tensoon. Doesn't go well at all, and it makes us wonder how often these pleas about one's innocence actually work. The next is provisions for the creation of new Kandra. Pretty straightforward. Prohibition of the murder of humans, but not Kandra. So this makes when Tensoon kills Orsur, that is not technically breaking the contract. How Tensoon breaks the contract is by telling Vin about the contract, because they're like sworn to secrecy about it. They are not supposed to tell anybody, and it's just it's kind of, maybe it's not necessarily illegal, but it's still a bad taste to kill one of your own, obviously. And next, the final element, and probably the most important part, is the resolution. And so the resolution was kind of the stipulation that the Lord Ruler put in there, knowing that Ruin would probably come back someday. And it's basically this like self-destruct mechanism. This and it basically where, because all the Kandra, they have these like spikes in them. This has to do with hermology and the third magic system that is within the Mistborn series, that I won't go super deep into. But basically, um, the Kandra have these spikes in them. If they pull them out, they will return to their forms as mist wraiths and basically lose their like sentience and like just basically become kind of like blobs, not really knowing much. And so it's an important element. So let's fast forward to, so in the Hero of Ages we see Tensoon. He's a prisoner. He does his kind of plea to the first generation and says like, hey, I told Vin about the contract because she is the holder of the contract now. She is the holder of the original first contract. Because she killed the Lord Ruler, she inherited that contract. They don't believe him, and they sentence him to die. But luckily, Tensoon grew very accustomed to his wolfhound body, and he uses it to escape. I think that this is really cool. I love the visual of this wolfhound like throughout the series. I just love picturing that. I love picturing Vin with this like big scary dog. Really cool, and I love that he uses it to escape. And so then, flash forward, Vin tries to go, or not Vin, Tensoon tries to go to Luthadel to try and find Vin and like help her basically, and this doesn't go super well. And so he does run into Sazed though, and he actually has a conversation with Sazed that ends up being pretty important, where he tells Sazed that he believes that he is the announcer, and this is like the person who will like call for the like the coming of the Hero of Ages, and this is pretty impactful for Sazed, or Sazed. I know some people say Sazed. I always say Sazed. Who knows? But so anyway, the Sazed gets Tensoon helps Sazed get kind of integrated with the Kandra, but the second generation decide to just completely go rogue and they attack Sazed. They put him in prison. The Tensoon though takes the role of another Kandra and basically helps escape. And this goes really well until Ruin takes control of all the Kandra and has Tensoon start to strangle Sazed. This is not good. So this is when the resolution is enacted and they remove their spikes, and it ultimately leads to success. Ruin is defeated. And Tensoon's a big part of that. And I think one of the reasons why Tensoon is just such a lovable character is very selfless. I mean, willing to sacrifice himself multiple points in the series. He also has just little quirks that I find just like adorable. I love the fact that he loves aged meat, which is basically just spoiled meat. I love that there are multiple references to aged meat and how awesome it is. And yeah, I think that Tensoon is just such a lovable character because we see this self-sacrifice. We see this warming up to Vin. And I think that those are the traits that you need for a really good kind of he's by no means the main character, and he definitely doesn't carry out any of some of the more important acts in the series. I think you would argue that Tensoon isn't super relevant to those. Obviously, the resolution is pretty big, but there are some pretty big events that happen in the final book. But overall, I think that Tensoon, a great character, the Kandra just in general are really cool kind of different species. I really like that Brandon Sanderson decided to opt into making his own like fantasy species opposed to like playing off of like the old more tired tropes such as like elves or dwarves. And so yeah, I think that Tensoon is a phenomenal character. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of deep dive. If you guys have any recommendations for other characters you'd like to see me do deep dives for, please let me know. If you have any like things that you think I could have improved on with this deep dive, please comment down below. I love like criticism, hearing what I should do better, what you'd like to see more of. Please comment that down below. But if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and have a great day.